Hi, and welcome to another Grit and Grime basketball podcast. I'm your host, as always, David Sago, with the new usual crew. We've got Tom Arnold, the videographer, does all the visuals for the podcast these days.
Yep, trying to make it sexy.
All right,
is the word.
all right. Don't make it too sexy now. We have Jose.
What's up, guys?
In the building, and we have Patrice.
What's going on? Did my Carmelo? Hit my head. I'm all good. I'm waking up. All right, we're ready.
Nice. Let's get
Can we get
to
a
it.
Shaq? I prefer the Shaq.
Do you? What about the old school crown?
Oh my god.
Oh, Vince Carter.
There you go.
Yeah, rev it up.
D'Angelo.
If you're listening on audio, we're just doing all the celebrations for all the players. So, we are going to do the partner podcast of the podcast we did last week. We have the Western Conference preview for the 2020-2021 NBA season. And we're going to go through all the teams, spend about 4 minutes discussing them as a group, and explain what we think is going to be important for them this season and where we think they'll finish. So we start at the top of the standings according to last season. That means we start with my Los Angeles Lakers. Look at that.
Smug alert. Smug.
Look at that.
I want to say thank you, Dave, for letting me do the Lakers this year. I know how much you love them, but I'm going to talk very nice things about them.
Looking forward to it.
So, the Lakers, they lost quite a lot of players, actually. But we'll get to that, to how many they got, actually, because Danny Green left to Philadelphia. JaVale McGee went to Cleveland. Rajon Rondo went to the Hawks. Avery Bradley to Miami Heat. Dwight Howard also to the Sixers. J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters left. Wade Quinn Cook. But they play this free agency as if they never won a championship, guys. They got Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Matthews, Marc Gasol, big exclamation point, Marc Gasol, Markieff Morris, Jared Dudley resigned.
Hey.
Resigned Costas, that's Giannis' brother. Resigned Anthony Davis and extended LeBron's contract. And they got Jordan Bell, Alfonso McKinney, and Dennis Schroeder from the Oklahoma City Thunder. As I just said, they played, this offseason as if they never won a championship. They're big winners. They obviously won the championship in the last season, and I think that they're going to be right there this year again. They're going to be in the finals. Definitely. That's my prediction.
Okay, contenders. So I think a big thing for me as a fan of the team was the surprise of getting Montrezl Harrell. But then I am also one of those people that thought that's a strange move. It makes us much better on offense, of course, helps the bench unit. We assume he'll be good in pick and roll with Dennis Schroeder. But then once we got Gasol, I thought that gave us the sort of flexibility up front to do a bunch of different things, because then it meant that we had two players that could actually play with Trez and stretch the floor at the same time in Gasol and Anthony Davis, and they both make up for his deficiencies on defense. So it sort of felt incomplete until we got that solid big man up top, and Gasol's a veteran, champion, and Trez has already complimented him on his leadership, as well as AD and LeBron.
I mean, just sorry to jump in, but just, in, out, doesn't really matter. When you got LeBron, you've always got half a chance, haven't you, really, at the end of the day? I think the guy's proven it. He's taken, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had nobody that you can remember, in 2007 to the finals against San Antonio. I think, I can't remember the guy, Booby Gibson, you know what I mean? Who the hell is Booby Gibson? You know what I mean? And then, obviously had Kyrie Irving and other guys to kind of take it to the finals of the previous years. But I think LeBron's proven it. I think when he wants to take it that extra gear, he's got that fifth gear that many players haven't got. You know what I mean? He's got the heart and desire. He just needs a bit of motivation. And I think, losing maybe Rondo, J.R. Smith, and Dion Waiters is not going to hurt. They're all past their 30s. They're all aging veterans. Yeah, they're pretty cool in the playoffs, but in the regular season to get to a good position within the playoffs, they're not really going to help. So I think these new guys coming in, yeah, potentially they may help. Dennis Schroeder, I think, will probably be one of the real significant ones because he's got an amazing quick first step, and I think he would just give them that much more energy than I think the team already had. I'm just a bit concerned about their 3-point shooting. It wasn't the greatest even when Danny Green was there, but we'll see what Wes Matthews can do. But LeBron is LeBron, as long as Anthony Davis is playing well, they've definitely got a chance to repeat. So that's my shout.
I think the only question mark I really have about all those trades is in what shape Marc Gasol is really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about it last week where he the last few games he's had with the Raptors wasn't the most convincing ever. So if he's had time to get back in shape, then yeah, it's a great signing. If not, if you get the same sort of end of life Raptors showing that he's had, I'm not so sure that's an upgrade on anything. We'll see. Time will tell. I've no info on what Marc Gasol's been doing, if he's been to be fair, I'm not really sure what the problem was last year. If that was mental tiredness, knowing that he was going to leave, was it physical? I don't really know.
Yeah.
But let's see. The rest is fairly solid. And you look at the in and out columns, and you see that everyone's been replaced by somebody that's probably slightly younger, maybe better and more physical. So why not? It makes sense.
Yep. So, Lakers champions 2021, right? Spotlights over streetlights.
They'll make the finals, I think.
Absolutely.
We'll have to see. So the next team on the list is the Los Angeles Clippers.
Oh wow, keeping it.
Take it away.
Yep. All right. So,
did you just say wow? Keeping it West Coast.
Yeah, I know. They were saying West Coast because it's Western Conference. See what I did? Right. So, keeping it LA. That's what I meant. The single most disappointing team of the last season. I think we all agree. They went in and replaced their head coach. So Doc Rivers is out. They obviously got rid of Montrezl Harrell. Got to the Lakers. Biggest loss, Joakim Noah is retiring. Maybe. We don't know. And they've got what? You don't know. Players in, well, not players in, but personnel in. Tyronn Lue is now the new head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? They brought Ibaka from the Raptors, Nico Batum,
Big Frenchie,
who's finally free from the fuckfest that was the Hornets. Luke Kennard, whatever, from the Pistons, which is a solid player, I guess. Patrick Patterson, who cares? They've resigned Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson. So again, good shopping, I guess. So I think the X Factor. I had quite a few questions there, because obviously we talk, we say Clippers. We were obviously think about the lovely playoff run last year when they were 3-1 up against the Nuggets and they just blew up. So my question was more about Tyronn Lue and how is he going to change the mentality around the team. I'm sure you've all seen the interviews that were coming out of some players saying that they weren't really on board with the preferences that were given to Kawhi and Paul George, especially Kawhi. So I think hopefully Tyronn Lue is going to do something to make that change and try not to have a divided changing room. Yeah, we'll see that. But also saying that I was listening to Batum interview today on French TV. He was saying that the way they were training, the first training sessions they had today was just absolutely mental, and that Kawhi looks pissed off. So don't bet against him.
You're gonna burn out.
Prediction. I think I'll see them top 2, obviously up there with the Lakers. But if they're really pissed off, then they'll go far. Watch this space.
fellas?
Yeah, I mean,
Jose is not happy.
I think last season we know was, like you're saying, it was a bust. I think, and primarily just because they didn't have a voice after they came back into the bubble. You know what I mean? I think they were up. I mean, Luke almost took them to the edge in the first round, and then obviously the Nuggets just kind of blew the steam and stuff. And Kawhi is quiet. He's a quiet player. He's an individual, is quiet. So, but that was up to Doc Rivers to kind of slap them around. You know what I mean? And I think something about the team kind of chemistry wasn't there. So Montrezl Harrell going, potentially Lou Williams is on the edge as well. It's definitely up to Paul George and Kawhi just to kind of turn it around. And Ty Lue, I don't know if he's the one to do it, but I think if Kawhi's got a little chip on his shoulder, if this last season doesn't motivate them to take it to the next level, nothing will. That embarrassment, I think, should say it all. So interesting to see what they come out with. And I think Paul George has got a lot to kind of prove, definitely in the playoffs. Hitting the backboard when he's hitting threes and whatever. I was just like, man, this guy, he's up one game, down the next. He's got to come with it this year, definitely.
Yeah, I think I don't see them as a top two in the West. I think the Nuggets are going to do better. The Mavs have a better chance this year. Ty Lue can potentially bring a team together. I think he's a coach that will adapt to his players the way he did in Cleveland. He lacks that personality that he's not going to be the most demanding coach. He's going to adapt to his players, and he's going to kind of like try to be nice to everybody. He's like a mediator, you know what I mean? So I think that can bring the team together, but they didn't add players. I think they could have had more players. Ibaka is a great addition, but that's it. I don't think they're going to be in the top.
Yeah, I mean, Ibaka could be a quiet one because him and obviously Kawhi did well for Toronto. And I think they've got, I even watched them on that Ibaka show when they were cooking fish or whatever they were cooking up. And, they had a natural little chemistry that I think,
Patrice,
and Ibaka,
Patrice,
I watch YouTube like crazy. So
it was Biff Penis. You can't forget the Biff Penis.
So you watched it too.
It was the Biff Penis. You have to get that right.
See, I was trying to keep it cool, but fish, but penis. Yeah. I'll say no more. Cool.
I think Ibaka was the best pickup of the offseason, outside of like obviously the Lakers signing Anthony Davis and stuff like that. But in terms of the little moves that were made to improve a team, I think Ibaka was a huge pickup. If only because I think he would have fit in LA for the Lakers even better than Trez would have, with the way that he can stretch the floor and things. But yeah, I think the Clippers will be better. Like Kennard is slightly better than Shamet. I don't think they've done enough to address the point guard position, because that was a huge thing coming up out of the playoffs, and they just haven't addressed it, which is really weird because their front office is really, really good. Like that's one of the reasons why they were able to attract Kawhi there. I think they're like marginally better. I don't think they're markedly better. But as long as they can get like Kawhi and Paul George to be fit and firing in the playoffs, I think they'll have a much better showing than they did last year. And again, so much has been said from all quarters. Paul George is still beefing with Damian Lillard. So I expect them to sort of bring it. But the problem for them is there's a condensed 72-game season to come before they get to prove anything. Like, so that's why I wouldn't, like, I relating this to my life. Anytime I get fired up for Kung Fu training, it's all for naught, because by the time we actually spar at the end of the session, whatever it was I was fired up about doesn't matter anymore. Like, you've got to go through the 45 minutes. You've got to go through the regular season and then get fired up for the playoffs. So they need leadership. Hopefully Tyronn Lue can provide that for them. And then they just need to stay the course. They were the second seed. Like, they did everything they needed to do in the regular season last year, despite the load management and the lack of chemistry and all of that. So they're a good team. Like they just need to be more of a team when it matters.
If they fix the chemistry problems, then they'll be very difficult to get out of the playoffs. They just need to go camping together and do something cool.
Yeah, man. Listen to some Nick Brewer and just chill.
Exactly.
Bond.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the next team, the third seed out west was the Denver Nuggets.
Oh yeah, Denver Nuggets. Okay, let's talk. So, I mean, watching Mr. Jamal Murray in the bubble, turned it on. You know, is Jamal Murray a top 5 guard in the NBA? I would say so. I think he validated himself. You know, regular season doesn't matter. What he did in the playoffs, shocking. The guy was phenomenal. Him and the Joker, awesome twosome. You know what I mean? I just, you know, astounding, blew my mind. I mean, some of the shots, some of the stuff he done, some of the will he did. Obviously, they came back 3-1 twice against Utah and against the Clippers. You know, the team was injured. There was no, you know, Will Barton. Michael Porter came and, you know, wasn't as consistent as he could have been. And they still showed that they were, you know, a quality side. But, you know, it's a new season. You know, they got, you know, the Lakers eventually blew them out. And I'm not sure where they're going to be this season. I think Jamal Murray, he has to prove that he's definitely an all-star caliber player. I think definitely he showed it in the bubble, but it's just this new season, like you're saying, he's got to go through that same process again of showing where they are in the West. And they lost Mr. Grant, you know, they're kind of, I think, who was their X factor, you know, very athletic, you know, he defended kind of all the best players on the opposite teams and stuff. They've got Jermichael Green from the Clippers, but I don't think he's obviously the same kind of build and with speed as Mr. Grant had. So I'm on the fence as to where they're really going to be this kind of season. I think potentially top 4 in the West. Coach Malone, I do respect Coach Malone. I think he's a great coach and he will get the players motivated. But again, it depends on Mr. Murray and the Joker as well, who obviously is the best passing big man that we've probably ever seen in the NBA, probably even better than Sabonis, who I used to rank, you know, way back in the days. I mean, the guy averaged virtually a triple-double as well. So they're going to be, I won't say they're going to be an up and down team. I just think it depends on those two to bring that core strength to the Nuggets, and just whether Will Barton, Gary Harris, and a couple of the other players can kind of step up. Paul Millsap definitely past his prime. Shame to see. I used to love the guy back in Atlanta. But yeah, Nuggets, it's totally up to those guys what they can bring. But borderline 4th place and potentially again, probably 2nd round, maybe conference finals if they're lucky.
Yeah, Jamal Murray just needs to rubber stamp it, basically. I feel like as a team, they've lost a bit of their depth, and that's going to be interesting to see how they how they navigate the regular season without, as you said, Jeremy Grant, and also their backup center in Mason Plumlee. They also lost Torrey Craig, who was a big defensive player for them. So, yeah. I think that's the depth will be interesting to see what effect that has on them.
Before Jose's head explodes, they signed Campazzo, who's the best point guard inside of the NBA.
Come on, guys! They signed the best point guard in Europe.
And I've been rolling my eyes so very hard at the internet when I saw some comments. I was like, you guys should watch something else than the NBA, because this guy, if you think Doncic is good, you've not seen Campazzo. I mean, that's he obviously is older, it's not the same position, but bloody hell. If you want to see some magic tricks, watch the Nuggets next year.
Yeah.
Who is that guy who signed with the Clippers? Sorry to jump in. Who was the guy? He's from Serbia.
Teodosic.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great passer, but he couldn't keep up.
Definitely not the same.
Okay.
Campazzo, you know, it's not because I'm Argentinian, right? It's not only because I'm Argentinian. It's only half because I'm Argentinian. But I love the guy. Like he's gonna make a difference. He might not have a lot of minutes at the beginning of the season, but when he plays, the way that he passes the ball, he's essentially the Joker at the point guard position.
Yeah.
He passes the ball like you have no idea. He's not the most athletic or the fastest, but he can defend as well. And I think that I actually honestly think that the Denver Nuggets are going to be in the top 2 in the West. They lost a very key game against the Lakers because Anthony Davis scored that 3-pointer the last second. If he didn't score that one, it would have been a completely different story. Hands down. I mean, the Lakers were better, obviously, but they're more experienced this year. I think that we're going to see them in the top.
All right.
I must forget Bobo as well. That guy's
Hey.
nice. He gets some time. Who gets some time in the regular season? Playoffs.
MPJ as well.
He was impressive.
Hey,
You know, what he showed was quite interesting. I want to see him with a bit more muscles. That'll be you know, let's see what he does.
He's better than his dad. There you
go. Cool. All right. So team number 4 is
Rockets.
The Houston Rockets. Wow.
What
can be said?
The Houston Rockets. It's just so hard to talk about the Rockets and not be like
every year.
I don't know what's going to happen, right? Like
super unpredictable.
So I read today something that James Harden is saying that he wants to get traded to the Sixers now. We knew he wanted to get traded, but now he confirmed he wants to go to the Sixers or any other franchise really that wants to take him.
The Knicks.
Maybe, who knows? So obviously Westbrook is out. Eastbrook is in, or as I decided to call him Eastbrook, but it's John Wall is in. Covington is out. Austin Rivers went to the Knicks. Like I said, Wall, Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, Christian Wood, Jerry Grant, Bruno Caboclo, Kenyon Martin Jr., a second-round pick, son of the great Kenyon Martin. I really enjoyed, watching that guy play back in the day, and Gerald Green in the non-guaranteed contract. We'll see what happens, guys. I mean, James Harden, you know that the guy's going to give you 30 points per game, but is he going to stay? Is he going to want to play with John Wall? Is he going to be able to play with John Wall? How much, if he stays, is his personality and John Wall's and DeMarcus Cousins going to match? I don't think they will. So if Harden stays, or if Harden goes, there, I mean, in my opinion, 8th to 10th seed. That's it.
Yeah, I think I had them in a similar slot, to be honest. I made sure I wrote out my standings, because I find in a competitive conference like the West, sometimes it's easy to sort of just throw people into brackets, and then you realize you actually have 6 teams in the same spots, and it just doesn't make sense that way. But yeah, I had the Rockets down in that 7 to 10 as well. It's so unpredictable. You just don't know what's gonna come of it.
Yeah, I mean they shipped out. Sorry, Tom. But literally they shipped out about 10 players of that could be starters, or they could be 6 men. Covington, a great defender, great 3-point shooter. Jeff Green, we know, is a kind of unsung hero on most teams and stuff like that. Austin Rivers, and Mr. Westbrook and Cephalosha, who's kind of coming to an end of his career. But I think the Rockets' identity crisis is just going to be like pow, you know what I mean? And I think Harden is their identity right now. And losing him, I mean, they may come together as a team, but if he stays, it'll just be him or nothing, And I think, they're going to kind of self-implode and stuff on the basis of whoever they decide to keep him or decide to leave him. And John Wall, I mean, they got DeMarcus Cousins as well. I mean, they just got the wrong players for the climate of what basketball is right now. Their mentalities are so fragile.
Absolutely.
They probably make like 20 games and decide to kind of not play the rest of the season because they're so frustrated with who they are. You know what I mean? They're just, they'd be an interesting watch, but I think it's just going to be a bunch of guys run up and down and be like, who the heck? What? Yeah, what happened to the Houston Rockets? I have no idea. So, crazy.
it's I don't really know where to rank them really, because it's like even if Harden's there, the rest of the roster is so meh.
Mm.
Like okay, we'll make a difference. Like he'll win them a bunch of games, but to do what, like there's no chance in hell they win anything, like they'll go anywhere in the playoffs if they make the playoffs. And then if Harden stays, then he's going to try and score like 45 a game.
Mm-hmm.
If he goes, then who are they getting in compensation? Are they getting a bunch of young guys from the Sixers? Maybe, I don't know. It's they're in a situation that is not really looking up at the moment. Like either way, looking at it, it's not. I wouldn't want to be a Rockets fan right now.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, and it's all because of poor ownership, right?
Yeah.
Someone Fertitta bought the team,
100%.
and every
100%.
season they've gotten worse since then. Ever since he let Ariza go because he didn't want to pay him, they've just gotten worse and worse and worse. Lost the coach, lost the GM, lost the second star, and now they're about to lose the main star as well. It's ownership matters. All right, so moving on to team number 5, which puts me on the clock with the Oklahoma. Oh wait, have I gotten this wrong?
No, you got that right.
No, I'm right. Yeah,
Thunder.
Which was me on the clock with the Oklahoma City Thunder. So this required a lot of preparation. I was asked the question, who came in? And I decided to write everybody, because there's about, I actually ended up with a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 players that came in. And I'm going to read them because it is quite the list of players. So the roster as it is now, in fact, there's 24 players on the roster as we speak.
Yeah.
We have Ariza, George Hill, Al Horford, Justin Jackson, Ty Jerome, Admiral Schofield, Darius Miller, Vincent Poirier, TJ Leaf, Frank Jackson, Pokusevski, who's the rookie, Kenrich Williams, all came in. I'm probably missing some people. I'm probably missing some picks and some other signings as well that they are probably bringing in for training camp. Players out, basically their whole starting lineup. So Schroeder, Adams, Gallinari, Chris Paul, Abdul Nader's also gone, and Andre Robertson is now a free agent. Can I breathe?
Yeah. The one breaking news from them is that the French guy Poirier got traded to the Sixers, so he's no longer there.
Oh,
anymore.
good. So more people have gone out from the team. Yeah. So they're just, I mean, they've embraced the tank. Really, what I should have said came in was about 11 picks for the next 5 years. Because they are, if any team, them and the Pistons really have embraced the rebuild, it's them. It's a race to the bottom with them. They're just stacking as many picks as they can. They'd already gotten a bunch from the Paul George trade, a bunch from the Russell Westbrook trade, and now they've brought in another one on the Chris Paul trade, and just they keep flipping everyone for picks. So if there's anyone in your life that you care about and they could possibly be traded for a first-round pick or a second-round pick in the next 5 years, I would hold on to them dearly and hope that they don't end up in Oklahoma City. In terms of predictions, I've got them in the underworld, actually. Yeah, I think they'll be with Hades down there, and the lost spirits and souls in the underworld, or Mephisto's realm. It depends on which mythology you partake in. And yeah, I mean, this is a franchise that I don't think has ever missed the playoffs, right? I think they've just about made it in their first year in Oklahoma City. And yeah, I think this will be the first year they miss the playoffs, and boy, are they going to make sure they miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that they should go back to Seattle, man. Like, you know, get a better city edition jersey and just, you know, get everything new stadium, new everything. Get Ray Allen as coach, you know. Definitely
facelift.
yeah, going under, and I agree with you. They've embraced the rebuild, so good for them.
Just the one thing that pissed me off with them is that they've drafted one guy, a French guy, point guard, that's been on my local team for the last 4 years, and he's like up there with it in terms of talent and in terms of awesomeness with Tony Parker. And the fact that he got drafted by the Thunder pissed me off, because the NBA at the end of the day as a business is being at the right place, right time, right coach, and like he's got into that situation there. He got drafted by them, and it's the worst place he could have landed. Saying that he's going to get a lot of playing time, hopefully, but to do what? I don't really know. So yeah, and then the guy, what's his name again? Maledon, and he was projected to be in the top 10, and he ended up in the second round. Which again, like I don't want to get into the whole draft thing, but it makes no sense to me. But yeah, good luck, Thunder fans.
Yeah, no, just quickly, their roster is a mess, isn't it? I mean, it's nearly as bad as Houston, really, and stuff like that. They're saying something. So yeah, I don't expect much. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, good up and coming player, but I think with that Chris Paul kind of leadership kind of guiding him the way. I'm not sure how well he's going to do by himself. He did not bad at the Clippers beforehand, but again, I don't think he's the leader. He's not ready yet to kind of fill those kind of boots and to take the team to wherever they need to go. So it's going to be a lot of juggling. A lot of strategy, a lot of kind of crazy offenses and defenses just to get them by. But yeah, they'll probably be in the underworld for most of the season. So yeah, I'll be in the sewers. And
I think it's a first though. I think they're the first team that we do these things for, and the first one to be outside of the table, outside the league. That's where they're ranking.
Yeah, they're gonna get relegated, and a G League team will come
G League. They have enough players for 3 rosters, so why not?
That is true. All right. So I think we can move on to the team that finished 6th, which was the Utah Jazz.
The Utah Jazz. So just quickly, players out: Davis, Bradley, and Brantley, Juan Morgan, Murier, and Justin Wright Foreman. They drafted Azubuike, he's in 27th overall, 7-foot center. Elijah Hughes, shooting guard, and they got Derek Favors from the Pelicans. They didn't move a lot, like they didn't get a lot of players in, so they're staying with their, base, good foundation. Obviously, Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. I think that what they have to do is they need to create an even better chemistry within their players, and that's their X factor. They have the players, they have a good roster. They can, I think, the fact that they brought in a 7-footer who is actually good numbers in college, 13, 10, and 2.5 blocks per game. Also Hughes with 20 points per game at Syracuse, which is, if you all remember, Carmelo's old college, Carmelo's alma mater, if you will. I think, it's a good roster. I see them, 4th, 5th in the West, same as last year, basically. And they have a really, really good defensive player in Gobert, a really good scorer in Donovan Mitchell. So again, create chemistry is going to be their X factor and their most important thing and goal.
Yeah,
still solid. I think they'll. I don't know if it's an improvement from last season, but I don't know. It's very Utah Jazz. They're just very jazzy right now. It's just same stuff, run it again. It's consistent. I think is the word we're looking for, and that's about it. I expect the same from what they've showed last year. I'm just hoping the whole COVID-19 incident that happened between Mitchell and Gobert is sort of water under the bridge now, and then they've I don't know, they had beef between the two of them, so it should be fine by now. It's been a few months, so the chemistry of the entire team depends on those two. So if they're not on talking terms, or if they can't see eye to eye, then you have an issue. But I'll trust the organization would have done the necessary work to fix that. But yeah, same old.
Yeah, I think the only way they can kind of go an extra level, if you will, is if Mike Conley becomes Mike Conley of old. You know, I think he showed glimpses.
Agree.
But I think we all know that he was a superior player back in Memphis and stuff. But he's kind of fallen off a little bit off the radar. But I think if he picks it back up, you know, Donovan Mitchell's proven that he's a stud. Clearly, but I think Mike Conley just needs to prove and show that he can be a good partner in the backcourt, and then, you know, sky's the limit for Utah, really. So.
I mean, some argue that Conley was one of the best point guard in the NBA
of all time. You know,
that's why
Conley
he got
and Magic Johnson, right?
He's got a max contract, but he has 1 year left in that max contract. So if he doesn't perform this year, he's going to be sacked. You know, so he has to play better this year.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, as well as Conley stepping into the void and helping Mitchell in the backcourt, I think making sure Bogdanovic is healthy this season will also be huge for them, because he was a big miss in the playoffs. He gives them another player who can do some light playmaking things, slightly less than Joe Ingles, but he's also a knockdown shooter off the ball. And I think that scoring punch was really missed in the playoffs. So ensuring he's healthy is going to be really big for them. They haven't really improved. They've kind of maintained. They brought back Favors, who we know can't play with Gobert. But I guess that brings more balance to their bench a little bit. And that was one area where they struggled. They didn't have great help from the bench. So again, solid playoff team. I think we'll see a similar season from them again. So with that, we move to the team that I'm sorry to do this, Bucks fans, but the team that I think Giannis should sign for. Whoa! You see that? He straightened up the blazer, loosened up the tie.
Wow.
Stepped inside the booth.
This is when you guys need to watch YouTube. It's on YouTube. Go on.
Tom is a Maverick now. I see the Jordan Brand logo. I see the jersey. Wow. And what is that in the background? Is that a Knicks jersey?
What?
Trash?
Who?
It's in the bin. Whoa. This is Patrick Ewell.
I don't know what a Nick is. I don't know what this is, but you know.
He's fully transformed. All he needs is the cowboy hat.
Can you introduce the next NBA champions?
The Dallas Mavericks.
Thank you. Right. Obviously, you guys, I've asked Dave to give me 20 minutes to talk about the Mavs, so we'll take our time on that one. Cool. So the greatest team of the entire NBA just got better. They fixed the one big issue. What? They fixed the one big issue they had last season, which was their defense. Offensively, one of probably the best team in the NBA, right? I think statistically they were the best one. They got very unlucky against the Clippers. I broke my microphone. They got unlucky against the Clippers in the playoffs, so we'll get back to that one in a second. So talk about who's out. Seth Curry went to the Sixers. It's fine. One of the, again, best shooters in the NBA.
Yeah.
But again, when you've got Doncic, it's fine. Doesn't matter. They lost DeLon Wright and Justin Jackson. Fine. They brought in Josh Richardson, again from the Sixers, and then the trade, and James Johnson, who's hard ass. And then we signed Trey Burke, JJ Barea, who's there still, and Willie Cauley-Stein. And then they drafted Josh Green. So I did look up Josh Green because I've read around that he's a good defender. He's a great defensive player, so he'll bring, if he gets minutes, he'll bring what was lacking last season. So I think that was it. My X factor was just that. It's just if they can get those defensive ratings up, get in there and match what they were producing on offense on the defensive end, then they'll be hugely dangerous. Obviously, look at Doncic's ankles, which brings us back to the Clippers playoff round where the Morris brothers were trying to break his legs or do something nasty with Luka's body, and we don't want that.
It was just Marcus.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a conspiracy theory out there that says this, they do switch sometimes, and I believe that because we live in the era of believing what you want to believe, right?
Of nonsense.
So yeah, I'll put top 5 on my prediction. I'm being conservative, but again, there's a lot of big teams in the West.
I think that being conservative is wise. Luka, I enjoy watching Luka play. Like, he's one of my favorite players to watch. You can tell how much he enjoys the game, right? He's definitely connected with Porzingis. They have a good team, but I still think they need a couple of years together, like a couple more years. I don't think they're gonna be in top 3 yet. I think conservative vision, what you just said, 4th, 5th, again 6th, maybe 7th. They still need that extra bit of experience in the playoffs. But no doubt, it's like one of my favorite teams to watch.
Good.
Yeah, it's quite a shame really with the Dallas Mavericks because everyone loves Luka, but he is essentially just a one-man team. Let's be honest. I think Porzingis, great shooter, but he doesn't want to play inside. He can block a shot every now and again. But if he's hot, he's hot. But then someone of his skill and caliber just goes missing from a game, or he gets injured. It's very lightweight. I just think, really, what is he doing? He doesn't use it. Doncic, he just goes inside, uses Euro step. He takes 20 players, he bumps them, he goes inside when he's not shooting threes, and he still shoots to at the game. He never lacks confidence. All other players on that team, they lack confidence at the big moments, and he needs someone who has that kind of, that confidence that he has. But obviously, we know that he's been an MVP since he was born, basically. So, I think losing Steph Curry is a big deal because he was a great shooter and he was projecting some of that confidence and, having 30-point games every now and again. I'm not sure if Josh Richardson can fill that void. But, we'll see. I think maybe Dwight Powell and, catch some of the alley-oops and stuff like that could help. But he's coming off the Achilles heel, as we all know, is very dangerous and serious. So it's just, like you say, it's all about chemistry. I think Luka's about chemistry. He's got to show a bit more maturity as well. I think he's just got to keep riding it out. He's got to do this LeBron and just put his blinkers on and say, "Yo, I'm just about winning. I'm just about winning. I'm not about the little touches and whatnot." And then potentially he can make it to the next level. But I think until then, he's gonna have his 40-point triple doubles, and then he's gonna be like, "Where's my team?" That's my opinion.
He is the next level. He is the next level.
Hey, it's five players on the court, I'm afraid. So.
What'd you say? LeBron's trying to be like Luka.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tom's wild. Yeah, I agree. I think they've more or less stood in place for me in terms of roster construction. Gotten a little bit better on defense, a little bit worse on offense. I can't believe Patrice said no one on the team has confidence when they've got one of the ultimate chuckers of his generation, Tim Hardaway Jr. on the team.
Yeah, but that's a false confidence, isn't it? I think there's confidence and then there's false confidence.
He's the Ricky Davis of his era.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's still living off that game with Dion Waiters in the rookie game where they're stacking it up and whatever, and like
bring Tim Hardaway's dad over, man. He can play.
Yeah. And they realized it wasn't a real game. It's like wow. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Dwight Powell injury is a big one, especially for their depth. And then, keeping Porzingis healthy is going to be huge because I don't think we've seen him complete a season yet in his entire career. And that's worrying for someone with his talent level, right? Because as his body fills out, as he gets stronger, he can be a real force, and he isn't shy about shooting it from the outside. I think he shot 52% in the playoffs. Is that in the playoffs? Yeah, 52% in the playoffs before he got injured. So a piece like that next to Doncic with his improvements going into the paint has been like an absolute revelation. That's why their offense was so high powered. But yeah, it's a matter of health with him, and it's been concerning signs the last few seasons. But I still think even with those two, they're one more star away from competing for a championship. So I have them as a solid playoff team.
Fair enough. Not as optimistic as I was, but hey, that's fine.
So that brings us to a team that I think is going to take one of the biggest jumps in the conference. That is the Portland Trailblazers.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We saw what they did in the bubble. We saw that they virtually had no chance to make the playoffs, and yet they went on a crazy streak to do so. Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, all those players, even Carmelo, kind of got it together. I think they kind of motivated and kind of had good chemistry and a good feel. I think, especially after their terrible start that season as well, kind of brought it together. And it's kind of good to see that the team's even better now. I think they got rid of Hassan Whiteside and his big gold contract. Hassan Whiteside, bless him, he was a good defender, but just offensively very slow. Just didn't kind of mesh very well. Nurkic came back. Nurkic, apologies if I'm saying it wrong. Came back well, came back strong, but he seemed to tire out kind of towards the end of it as well. But they've got Covington, who will probably take the starting place of Melo. Harry Giles is not bad for Sacramento. He should be a decent kind of big man as well. Zach Collins, who got injured, but he's back again. So I think they're loaded, and I think they're still quite young, they're still quite fresh, and obviously they've got good leadership. If Melo's still there, happy to take the role off the bench, that will help. But Dame Lillard, we all know Dame Lillard, hitting them deep threes from the logo, and that McCollum can take anyone off the dribble when he needs to. Excited, and I think they just need a good start. They need some consistency to where they're not battling for the kind of the last seeds in the playoffs. But I think I also forgot they got Cantor from Boston as well, who's going to get some of those balls that Whiteside got as well, and he loves to play around the hoop and stuff, and he knows his role. So I think the team, they're loaded, but they've got players who know their positions and players that are essentially kind of fixated on their roles. They're not trying to do too much, not trying to do too little, just trying to contribute in the best ways they can. But I think Lillard, man, he could put up 60 points, but without being a singular entity on his team. There's other players on there that you can't forget about. So I see big things for this team. I think they've just got to get their consistency from the beginning, and they've got to build up their confidence. I think because they were starting way back in 10th position, and they had to get through the play-in, they ran out of steam against the Lakers in the playoffs. Sure. I think if they get to the playoffs, they get to 6th seed, whoever picks them up, they're going to be in trouble. Seriously. Because I think the year before they were in the conference finals against the Warriors, I believe. So they've got the skills, and they beat the Nuggets in that 7th game kind of thriller as well. So they're there. They just got to take it to the next stop. And it's really up to Lillard. Lillard is the guy who's got to take it in, but he can't run out of steam, ultimately. So Blazers go.
I'll jump in then. I have a real what's the word for it? Affection for Lillard and this team. I really want them to do well, just because Lillard got the big contract, took over the franchise from Aldridge and all of that, and he's flying the flag, and just the way he represents himself. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him in interviews and things like that. He's such a real dude, such a down-to-earth dude. We'll never forget where he came from type of person, even though he has one of the biggest contracts in NBA history. and he wants to win, but he wants to win at Portland, right? He has that mentality. And I actually think with all of those players coming back, you've reeled off the names there, Patrice. They've got a hell of a roster there. Bringing in Covington to play help defense, and then combining that with their big man rotation, then they have one of the best scoring backcourts in the league. Like, they just seem to be a complete team to me. And for that reason, I've actually put them in my top 3 in the West.
Wow.
I think that provided everyone stays healthy, and plays the season as we expect them to, I think that they come in just behind the LA teams and couldn't compete with the LA teams the same way the Nuggets did last season. And I think they will be just in that sort of Nuggets realm, but maybe slightly ahead of that team going forwards.
Interesting. I think hands down, Lillard, one of the best players in the NBA. I love what you just said, Dave, that he wants to win, but he wants to win in Portland, and I love that. You don't see that often. You don't see that often these days. I don't think that they're going to be top 3 though. I think that, yes, agreeing again with Patrice, if they have a better start of the season, they will be 4th, 5th, maybe 6th seed instead of fighting for the 8th one. And they might have a better playoff run, but I don't see them up there yet. They definitely did improve their roster though, so they're one two, you know, McCollum and Lillard. It's just such a treat to watch.
I think they'll be up there in the top 3 if everyone stays healthy. I think it depends on the states. Historically, they always look like they pick up a bunch of injuries, most often important injuries to their star players. So if they can manage the season a bit better, and because it always looks like towards the end of the playoff runs, they are completely running out of steam. So 72 games this season, with a little break in the middle, that'll be very helpful to them, I guess. You know, if Nurkic can stay healthy, if CJ McCollum can be also healthy, and most importantly, if Lillard can play an entire season without picking up any knocks, then yeah, they could be up there. I just hope I'd like to see them going through an entire season without any damages. That would be great. That would be something, because every time there's one key player that is missing in the playoff run, there's always something that's setting them back, and that's fairly annoying, because I think everyone's rooting for Lillard. I think it's everyone's, if not number 1 favorite NBA players,
Second
like
favorite,
he's in
right?
the top 3, second or third, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I really hope they do something good this season. Somebody like Lillard who's been pushing to win in Portland deserves to at least make the finals. That would be great. I'd love to see that.
I mean, I would not as a Lakers fan, but you know, if something crazy happened and the Lakers flip conferences or something, then yeah, he should definitely make the finals.
Right.
But speaking of health and injuries, we have the Memphis Grizzlies at 9. So I'm gonna take these guys on. They had a hell of a run. Who knows what would have happened if not for the outbreak? They were quite firmly in that 8th seed. And then the NBA conspired to give Zion a shot, give Lillard a shot, give the Spurs a shot. And they were eventually pushed out of that spot. But that was with a major injury to Jaren Jackson Jr., who is, if not their best player, their second best player. They have had a few changes to the roster that had them in 8th. They obviously lost Crowder during the season and traded out Crowder and Iguodala, who hadn't played for them, for Justice Winslow and some other pieces. They haven't had any noticeable outs since then. They brought in Hazonia. They signed Desmond Bane with the 30th pick. And they also had a 2nd round pick. But I think for them, it's more about growth. The young players growing and just improving and seeing if their growth can raise the ceiling of the team even further. Because most people wouldn't have had them anywhere near an 8th spot last season. And I mean, Ja Morant was in his rookie season. Jaren Jackson Jr. was in his sophomore season. So if they can continue to push the envelope and stay healthy, fingers crossed, because they're 2 of the most exciting young players in the league, who knows what they can do. I personally have them just outside the 7 to 10 spot this season. So amongst the bottom feeders, but not in a disrespectful sense. I think they've just got some growing to do. And I think that's where they should be. I think that they overachieved last season. And yeah, who knows what their future holds building around those 2 young cornerstones.
I agree with everything you said on the Grizzlies, and I'll just bring one concern to me, which is Morant's, Ja Morant. Like I see a lot of Derrick Rose in him. in terms of
Right.
the way he plays. And I've been watching a bunch of highlights of last season, and the way he lands. I think we had the discussions one. The way his body is twisting, the way he's landing, and the way he's crossing people, and his ankles are taking a bashing every time he plays. I really, really hope he's not gonna end up with the same future in terms of injuries. Obviously, if he can get an MVP title at a young age, would be good for him. But I don't think that's gonna happen. But I really hope he's going to I don't know, it's a weird thing to say, but tweak his game a little bit to prevent injuries, really. But saying that, on the other hand, I don't really want him to do that because he's such an exciting player to watch, and he's so good at what he does that, you know, that's my only concern with them. The rest, like everything you said, is spot on. But yeah, hopefully we get to see him play for a long time.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely exciting to watch. I think they definitely, when they let Crowder go, I wasn't sure what they were thinking in terms of kind of having some kind of veteran leadership, and I think it showed in the bubble. I think, you know, they kind of lost like 5 games out of 6 or whatnot, out of 8, and they just kind of lost that kind of will or that kind of maturity to kind of take them to that next step. And I'm not sure whether they've got anybody else that can fill that kind of void. But I think, you know, with a long season, you know, if they kind of gel well, if they prevent them from having injuries, I think potentially they can be a team to watch. You know, they may creep into the 7th if they're consistent. Oh, my light's flashing. Oh, sorry about that. And yeah, I think, you know, John Morant, you know, Brandon Clark in particular, you know, Summer League MVP, you know, solid players, you know, fun to watch. And I think they've definitely got a bright future. I think, yeah, I like the way they're kind of constructed. I think they're kind of giving the young guys a chance, which most teams kind of don't really do. I mean, in terms of kind of building a team, I think a lot of teams are kind of a mixture between veterans and kind of young ones as well. So I'm confident that they'll probably reach the 8th spot, you know, just to summarize before my life.
I think it's Hades days coming from with all the Thunder players.
Yeah, I think the key word here is future. They have a bright future in Ja Morant, especially. They're not, in my opinion, they're not making the playoffs. They're going to stay 9th or 10th. But great future. You know, that's it. I'm not gonna say more than that.
All right. So word to Patrice's flickering light. I think it's the Undertaker coming from Death Valley. A stone's throw from Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh,
where the
segue
Phoenix
transition.
Suns play.
Wow.
And the Phoenix Suns had some notable ins and outs. They lost Kelly Oubre Jr., I mean, Ricky Rubio and Ty Jerome. They brought in Chris Paul, the aforementioned Jay Crowder. They also signed Eton Moore, Langston Galloway. They got Abdul Nader in the Thunder trade and signed Jalen Smith, the number 10 pick in the first round of the draft. So I think they've gotten better. People talk about like player loyalty being gone, but I feel like the Ricky Rubio trade was a sign of why players don't have to be any more loyal than teams do, right? The guy signed for the Phoenix Suns in the off season and got traded a season later. And it's just like, oh, wow, I thought we were building something here. And, you know, he played so well for them when he was on the court. Unfortunately, he couldn't stay healthy. But they've traded him away, brought in Chris Paul, who's another point guard leader, a better shooter. He's a little bit older though. He had one of his most healthy seasons for a while last season. And I think the Suns are banking on him doing that again and having the same kind of effect on the culture and the team that he did for the OKC Thunder. But he came out and said on media day, part of coming here was to go somewhere where he could be a leader, but also he wanted to compete. He wanted to play and he wanted to compete. And I think he will. Bringing in Crowder, I think, is a nice piece as well. He's proven as a playoff defender. He's up and down with his shooting, but he can provide some 3-point shooting as well. And then you combine that with the growth of DeAndre Ayton, and the improvement of Michael Bridges as well. He was really good defensively for them in the bubble. And it looks like he's going to be able to knock down the three more consistently than expected as well. And they have quite a team there. I actually have them. This was one of the teams that made me want to actually write down where I expect everyone to finish, because it's easy to say, oh, okay, now they have Chris Paul, they're going to make the playoffs, right? But then, okay, who misses out? And I ended up having them in my third tier, just ahead of the Spurs, and in the same realm as the Rockets and Warriors. Two teams that have a bit of a question mark over them. So I think they'll be in the hunt in terms of the play-in tournament, whether that's as a 7th or 8th seed or trying to fight in as a 9th or 10th.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul is a player that he has proven that he makes players around him play better. He did that when he went to Houston. He did that when he went to OKC. Obviously, such a good season for him last year. And yeah, I mean, having him in the team makes massive difference. You got a hustler in Crowder. I like this team. I actually agree with you. They're gonna be like 7th, 10th, and they have obviously way better chances than last year because they have such a better team than last year. So it's gonna be exciting to see Chris Paul make those young players better.
Yeah. Just wondering how many assists a game is Chris Paul going to average now, because he's got Devin Booker next to him. That's going to be. But in terms of overall team, they've to me is the biggest turnaround in terms of quality, in terms of roster. The players they've got in vastly outweigh the players that are out. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I don't really know where to fit them in terms of predictions. I don't really see that. I tend to agree they'll be in there for the play-in tournament. So if Devin Booker can be a regular sharpshooter the entire season and he can produce good quality games, then they've got a shot. I'm also very interested in see how DeAndre Ayton is going to perform. How much is he going to benefit from having Chris Paul there? Because what Chris Paul does, he also brings a lot of quality out of the bigs. All the bigs he's got on his team are always performing well when he's there. So that'll be interesting to see if there's a jump in stats and visually on court. I don't know. Well, it could be the best thing that ever happened to the Suns, or that happened to the Suns in a long time to get Chris Paul.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm on the fence because I'm not sure if getting Chris Paul was the best move, just because of his age primarily. And I think that at Oklahoma he had Gilgeous-Alexander and Dennis Schroeder there as kind of point guards that just kind of took away from him, where he's going to have to do much more work, I think, to kind of motivate and to kind of get the guys in the right position. It's going to be a lot wide on him, especially because he's still got a big contract to fulfill as well. Devin Booker, everyone thinks he's a great player. He scored 70 points in Boston. He's got great skills and whatnot. He hit that buzzer beater against the Clippers, but he's still unproven. In my books, he's still unproven. He hasn't taken the team out of the depths of the Western Conference, since he's been in the league, and I know it takes players a time to kind of really hit their prime and whatnot, but it's just, if he doesn't do it now, when is he going to do it? Is this the right team for him? Is it the right environment? I mean, he signed a big contract, so he's going to be there for a couple of years at least. But I'm still on the fence with Devin Booker. I don't know whether he's really got it. I think, he's got a great touch, but I don't know. It's I want to be a believer, but I don't know. I'm looking at the roster. The roster is okay. I mean, Damon Jones. I mean, Jay Crowder. We know, but apart from Jay Crowder, Chris Paul is the only player with real experience on that team. Everyone else is still merging like I said, in the depths of the Western
That's true.
Conference, and they haven't really had that. And losing Kelly Oubre Jr., he was a great kind of rugged player, had much more edge to him. I don't know how much edge the team has got now, And Ricky Rubio, international star, with worlds of experience and stuff like that. Great leadership, great passer. But again, I don't know if Chris Paul has got it at his age. Potentially has, but we'll see. Just remember this spot when they come in 11th place in the West. I told you so. All right, and you're like, how did that happen? Patrice had that insight, and I saw it. So,
We erased this bit.
yeah.
They've got a cute little starting five. I think that's a good place to start for them. Like after being absolutely horrible for the last few years, it's a good stepping stone. They've got, I think, having that it's a surprise to me that we're talking so highly about the Suns.
I mean, you're talking highly. I'm gonna disagree.
No. You didn't say they were gonna be bottom. Like
I think there may be a couple more places than they are currently, but I don't think they're gonna.
That's speaking highly of the Suns, then.
Yeah, they're not gonna shock the world. They're not gonna shock the world at all. I think.
No. I don't think that any one of us is saying that. I think they've definitely improved. On what they had last season and the last couple of seasons where they were tragic.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I mean,
would that be a success? I don't think so, but it's probably better than what they previously gave us.
Yeah, it's a success if they make the playoffs, and they're another team who has been destroyed by their owner, and people that have worked in the organization, people that are alumni of the organization, like Charles Barkley, have really dragged the team and the owner through the mud because of what he's done to the team over the years. And they're still under that spell, still under that curse. We're just hoping that the Chris Paul leadership effect can reverse that somewhat. Speaking of good leadership, that brings us to team 11 in the West. First time they've missed the playoffs since 1997.
Crazy.
The San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, the San Antonio Spurs, they didn't move much. This is my favorite team in the NBA. I'm a big Spurs fan because obviously I used to follow Manu Ginobili, and how far are we from that big three is just amazing. Bryn Forbes went to the Milwaukee Bucks. So he had a lot of potential, in my opinion. Nothing super special, though. Marco Bellinelli went back to Italy. It was about time. It's fine. Good move for him. Good for him. They drafted an 11th overall Devin Vassell and Trey Jones 41st overall. Good players. Again, nothing special. But if you think about it, the Spurs haven't been special for a while.
Yeah.
They were never the flashiest team, but they used to be a really good, solid, well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And they, I hate to say this, but they play a style of game that, even though I love watching it, it's obsolete for the NBA's game these days. They rely so much on DeRozan's mid-range shot and LaMarcus Aldridge's post-up plays, where he basically just turns around and does fadeaway. I think that there's so much future here, especially with DeJounte Murray. He's such an exciting player. I like White. I like Portal's defense. They re-signed him. Good players. I was quite surprised that they didn't make the playoffs. I thought they were going to make it. In the end, they just weren't solid enough. I like watching the DeRozan play again. I enjoy watching the Spurs play, but their style of game, it's very hard to beat teams that are shooting threes and attacking really fast. And, they just haven't adapted yet to that. As much respect as I have for Coach Pop, I think change is good at some point. They are going to fight for an 8th seed in the West, if not lower than that. Hopefully. I mean, I'm just being super optimistic, though. I want them to make the playoffs. I think it's going to be very hard.
I have them 7 to 10 as well. You guys?
All right. Why?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I was watching a clip, and I don't know if you've seen it, where Trey Young is taking on Lamarcus Aldridge on the wing, and he goes one way, and he goes the other way, and he spoons it, he dishes off, and then the guy dunks it, and I'm like, Lamarcus Aldridge looks like a statue, and I'm just like, that symbolizes new and old of the league, you know what I mean? And I think that just personifies what you're saying exactly, that they haven't kind of moved on with the times. And obviously, when Kawhi left to go to Toronto, they got a good all-star in DeMar DeRozan, but he hasn't got that kind of three-point game. He hasn't got that edge. Consistent, strong. He did that nasty dunk on Boucher. When he came down the lane. That was the best highlight of the year, you know, and stuff like that. And Lonnie Walker is okay, but he's not. Yeah, there's no real studs kind of coming through on that team. I think they're definitely in transition. You know, Pop in their system, you know, fantastic for keeping kids going and keeping them motivated, but I think they're definitely borderline. I think the league is very flashy, it's very speedy, very three-point kind of driven now, and I think just to kind of keep up with that, they're gonna have to get better personnel. It's no reflection on the culture in San Antonio. It's just more about everybody else, you know. And I think you know, it's more about scoring 150 points than it is, you know, being steady and getting 102, you know, per game. And I think it's just San Antonio just need to kind of make that next step, or just get some real bona fide players that are really great at their position and they can score 30 a night on the block. Aldridge can only get you 20 max these days, so it's, you know,
I don't really see them anywhere close to the playoffs or the playing tournament. I think they just, and I love the Spurs as well. That, you know, and Coach Pop is just one of the best ever in the history of everything. So, you know, it's like it's I don't know, it's there's nothing to be cheerful about. Maybe knowing that Murray is back, you know, he had a bunch of games last season, but from when he was back from his injury, but he wasn't really completely back 100%. There's a big difference in the Spurs and how they play if he's active and if he's playing well on offense and you know, being the energy guy. But for the rest of the team, I don't know. Like DeRozan is I don't think he's a right fit in the NBA at the moment. He always look a bit out of place for me. And Aldridge is now 65, so it's hard to think there's good days ahead. You know, and defensively they can't even rely on good defense. I think they were 24th last season in defense. It's not, they can't. And they don't have a fire. They're not, like, I think they were there the 10th or 9th best offense last year, which is fine. But, you know, if you've got a 24th defense, you got to be number one on offense to do to get any kind of results.
Correct.
So I'm not very optimistic for them. I would love to be, and it hurts me not to see them in the playoffs or not to consider them being a playoff team. But I think that's the reality of it right now.
Absolutely.
They're gonna have to draft clever in the next few seasons to be something.
Yes, it's a funny roster over there. Speaking of funny rosters, I'm on a roll. The Sacramento Kings.
Right, so that was a weird one to research. I'm just gonna go through my spreadsheet. Players out: Harry Giles. Is it Giles?
Giles.
Giles. Oh, I'll never know. Bazemore is out. Gone to the Warriors. Obviously, the biggest one is Bogdan Bogdanovic. He's gone to the Hawks. Alex Len, tragedy, is gone, and Alvin Gentry is gone also. He's now associate head coach somewhere else. Did I put him in the play out? Yeah, he's
a Pelican.
He's a Pelicans, right? So they've
he left the Pelicans.
And I've got Gentry. I've got it in the wrong column. You see, that's how much good research I've done on the Kings.
Told you it was
that's
a strange
how much
roster.
I care about them. Yeah, confusing. And in terms of players coming in, they've resigned Fox. I think now he's got a max contract extension, so that's a good thing. They brought in Whiteside from the Blazers and Halliburton from somewhere.
Rookie.
Rookie. So from somewhere. So I think my main question was having Luke Walton as a coach. I always sort of talk about the coach on the X Factor questions that, you know, they are in a way important to the game. And there was that Luke Walton hype that was following him also. I'd already talked about the hype train last week, but I think I'm going to use that again. And when is that hype going to die down with Luke Walton? I think he went from the Warriors and he had that good run when Steve Kerr was injured, and like everybody was like, yes, amazing, he's a great coach. Then moved on to the Lakers, where obviously the roster was not that good, and he didn't do well there. And then moved to the Kings. Okay, granted again that the roster is not the best. He could try and work out something, but I don't know what he's about. I don't know what he's done. I don't even know if he's a good coach after all. I think he's one of those guys that's probably better suited to be an assistant coach.
Yeah.
So that's why I think if he can put something in place and work with Gentry and trying to bring back the old Warriors days, then why not? But I don't think he's got the players to do that. So I think I've sort of put them in there for the play-in tournament. But as I wrote that, I wasn't really convinced. They lost Vlade Divac also, who's gone. I forgot to mention that. That's quite a big one. So that was quite not as a player, Dave, not as a player.
Come back.
That was a long time ago. I forgot to mention here, Divac is out. So it's that's part of the whole new image they were trying to bring to the franchise, where they were like, hey, look, we got Divac on, he's in there. But it did fuck all.
Yeah, being a good player doesn't make you a good GM, right?
Exactly. But yeah, playing tournament, maybe. I don't really know. I think I'm being too optimistic again. I'm being optimistic today. I don't know why.
You are being very optimistic. I don't think they're going to make it that high. They did do the right decision in giving De'Aaron Fox a max contract extension, but they're not. I mean, they still need a couple of years to rebuild their team. Yeah, I mean, nothing too special about them.
Yeah, I think when they give players contracts, is it just to keep them for potential sake, or is it
pretty
because
much
they've got nothing else kind of on their roster? And I think the Kings are perfect examples there. I mean, apart from Harrison Barnes, who fundamentally sound, but just probably just a non-alpha male kind of character and personality, they haven't got anybody. I mean, just looking at it, it's shocking. And I think they're just gonna just turn up to a bunch of games, probably lose a bunch of games and just not have any real impact on the league. I think, Luke Walton, I think, is the perfect case. But Buddy Hield is funny because I had him in my fantasy team last year, and he hits like he can go for a streak. 5 games where he has 20-point games. You're like, then you won't see him, for the next 7. So I think that's just typifies the kind of team that they are. 1 minute they're hot, and then for most of it they're cold. So I think it'll be the same this year as well.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle. I have them just outside my 10 spot. As you guys have said, Fox is a good player of potential. I think Halliburton's going to add something in terms of secondary playmaking. And he wanted to go there, which helps. But yeah, I mean, that franchise more than any, I think, is suffering from not picking Luka Doncic in that draft. They had the 2nd pick and they passed on him. And now Divac is out of a job.
He'll be all right.
Yep. And they are where they are. But I hope they improve. I do like Fox. I'm hoping Halliburton turns into something as well. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for them. Whew. Moving on to the most confusing team maybe in the NBA, the New Orleans Pelicans.
There's nothing confusing about Zion Williams. Come on, let's be real. This guy.
There isn't?
That's fine.
I think, people just think, who is he? Is he a tweener? Is he a forward? Is he can't shoot? The guy can dunk and he can bring people to the seats. That's what matters, right? You're watching his high school tapes where he was putting it between his legs and windmill dunks, and at Duke he was bam 60% from the field, and he blew his shoe off, and then now he's in the NBA and he goes crazy, 17 points in the quarter against San Antonio, and wow, and he's built like Charles Barkley, and I think it's all hype. It keeps us watching, but the reality is, we know that he's borderline just going to be an average player. I think the only way he can take it to the next level is, they just give him the ball, 60 times a game. I think with Lonzo Ball in the team, he will try and do that. But I think you've got Brandon Ingram, who likes to shoot it, who wants the ball, who thinks he's a stud, who thinks he's Kevin Durant part 2, which he isn't. JJ Redick, who's too old, run around screens, but he's starting missing now because he's got no legs when he shoots. Drew Holiday's gone. They've got Eric Bledsoe, who's Eric Bledsoe. I don't even know what he does anymore. So the team is shocking. The team is not disgraceful yet, but they are borderline just like terrible. Zion Williamson is the only reason you'll tune in.
Wow.
And he's the only reason that coaches will say, we've got a chance tonight, guys. So Zion Williamson, he had a good rookie season, but again, injuries, he's got freak of nature. Is he eating too many hamburgers? We just don't know what is going on in Zion Williams' world. But there'll be an interesting watch. Will they make the playoffs?
No.
What do you guys think?
So are you saying that Instagram post of him that came out a couple days ago was fake? Do you think it's Photoshop job? It was always saying he's lost a bunch of weight, but that's all fake.
I'm saying you never know. You never know. And he had that suit with the agent as well, didn't he? Where he had to give about 100 million to somebody. Sure. So that maybe shed a load. He had put out all the cash under his jersey and he just let it go. And now he lost weight. So who knows what's going on inside.
Well, you're actually the first person I've ever met that's not buying into the Zion hype again.
I've got nothing but love for the guy personally. Yeah. But I think, he's probably exploded too quickly and he's part of this kind of, social media generation, which is totally fine. But he can play as well, but it's just where he fits, and unless you give him the ball, he's got one move where he just turns baseline all the time. Just whether he can get a reliable jump shot as well. So.
Yeah, he's not LeBron. He's not going to be a super mega star. As you said, he might be a very good, an average player, solid, just like dunker, big dude. I must say I wouldn't want to be part of the Pelicans organization being criticized by Patris today. Gosh, man, give him a break. But this just Zion, amazing. I love watching him play. He only played half a season, right, or a bit more than half a season. So we'll see. He has time now. If he's in shape, exciting to watch. That's it.
I want to see him play more than a few games that we've seen before judging him. Where I sort of agree with Patrice is that the hype that was around him it was so over the top, absolutely crazy that no young guy should really have to deal with that. Like the whole shoe blowing up and I don't know, man. That was just too much. But if he's a Charles Barkley plus, then that's a good pick for New Orleans. But then if he keeps getting injured because of his huge physique, then you might be right. It might be a bust. But I don't know. I want to see him with a few stones, kilos, whatever you're using, less, and see how he goes from there. See if you can. I think we can only judge him in the next couple of years, like after full seasons. But before that, I don't know.
Yeah. It's going to be important to see what happens with the development of his jump shot and then also how he develops defensively, because at Duke he did look like a really good defensive player, or at least like he had some defensive potential as a defensive playmaker in terms of steals and blocks. But yeah, their roster is just really strange. I've always liked Ball and Ingram, but having a Ball and Bledsoe backcourt is just yuck. That is disgusting. And there's just so little shooting when you look up and down the roster. Like Ingram improved a lot last season, Ball improved, but now it seems like they're going to be relied on to be the team's main shooters, and I don't think that's going to bode well. So yeah, I definitely have them outside the playoffs since they can't shoot and can't play defense. Moving on to another team which can shoot but can't play defense. The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yep. This is really interesting though, the Wolves, because we'll get to why it is interesting. But okay, players out: James Johnson to the Thunder, Omri Spellman, and Jacob Evans to the Knicks. So they've drafted obviously the number 1 spot, and they got Anthony Edwards. Talk about him in a sec. They got Ricky Rubio, Ed Davis, Hollis Jefferson, and then obviously they got Malik Beasley from last season and Juan Hernan Gomez. So again, looking into the Timberwolves, and I think Mike, who's not with us tonight, but Mike did the original research, and I did see what he put in the X Factor, and I agree with him. I didn't change it. Is number 1 pick who doesn't like to watch basketball, and right there is a huge red flag for me. I think his quote was he doesn't watch basketball and he actually doesn't really care about basketball, and I think he's more into the NFL and stuff like that. Yeah. Which, if you're going for a job interview and you're like, oh, what's do you like fashion? I actually don't give a I just like
tech.
watching. Yeah, I'm into tech stuff. I like PlayStation 5. You'd be like, what are you doing here? So I'm, seeing that interview coming out a couple of days just before the draft, you're like, you must be really good at basketball to be still picked number 1. But I think the bad thing for the Wolves, the one thing that I was reading, again, an article on Cat, not Cat the animal, but Cat the player, that his mind is literally not focused on basketball right now at all. So obviously his mom passed away back in, what was it, March, April, at the beginning of the pandemic.
Having a rough patch.
And he said like he could not think about basketball at all. And again, 6 more member of his family passed away from COVID recently. So he's literally in no way, shape, or form to be a basketball player right now. He said like he cannot think about it. So obviously that's extremely sad, and felt sorry for him. It's not a good, it's if you've seen Karl Anthony Towns, like if you've seen Towns playing, he's always smiling, he's always goofing around. And I think that was part of the reason was because of his mom was always courtside, sorry, and he was playing for her really. A lot of times he came out and said that he wanted to make his mom proud, like pretty much like everyone else, but him especially. So losing her, must have been devastating. I think it still is. And following that, having that followed up by another 6 people in the family dying is just, I don't even know how he'll come back to basketball at some point. Hopefully he does, because he's such a great player. But yeah, so if you've got your star player that is not in any shape, basketball playing shape, and your number 1 draft pick who is warmish towards basketball, he's it's there for him to do another thing, then you don't know if that bodes well for the future. I see them very close to the bottom, fortunately.
I mean, I won't take that quote literally with Anthony Edwards, but I do get it from watching him play and watching a few of his college games. I mean, he just had free reign to kind of jack up shots and stuff. He's got, great kind of physique and whatnot, but I won't say he was hit and miss. I mean, he was very hot. He was clearly very talented, but I think he just hasn't reached that kind of NBA level of discipline kind of in his game as yet. And I think over the next, couple of seasons that will kick in. I think right now he's a bit like, I've just got this kind of utmost kind of confidence and swagger to do whatever just because I'm built this way. I've got natural ability that I've been playing for so many years, and no one can really touch me. I'm number 1. I'm cool, and basketball is what it is. You know what I mean? But I think, it'll be a wake-up call once he hits the league and he realizes he's getting his shot blocked every time he goes to the hoop because he can't finish, And I think, that'll wake him up. And I think he's got great upside, and stuff. I watched him do that pro camp with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and all were there. And, they go through rigorous kind of workouts and stuff like that. So, he's got it in his mind. I think he's just very non-media savvy at the moment as well. And he's just like, whatever. And I think he's just he's just trying to put on a little show to say, I don't care. I'm ready for the big boys. I can take them on. Basketball, what is it? You know what I mean? He's just trying to be above above the crowd, but he'll get reality check, and then he'll know I've got to say the right things, I've got to play the right way. He'll adjust, and then he can tap into that old thing that made him, a successful player. So, but yeah, as a team, generally, yeah, like you said about Cat, I totally agree as well. They've got D'Angelo Russell, who is again is almost the same. He's got that kind of air of kind of confidence about him, but it's very up and down. He's got to find his right kind of niche and right kind of groove as a player.
Hit and miss is what you used before, and that's exactly the same with him. I think.
Yeah.
Russell.
I mean, when he got traded, I think that was unfortunate for him, because at Brooklyn he was getting some kind of identity about his game and leadership on that team. But then he went to Golden State, and obviously they'll just use him as bait to kind of just for Kevin Durant primarily, and just to kind of get Andrew Wiggins and whoever they could fit in around Curry and Klay Thompson. So yeah, I think he'll probably last maybe another season. He'll probably get traded again. He'll probably be a journeyman, unfortunately. But he needs to tap in really and just focus and get down to basketball and just show the league that he can really play. He can every now and again, but he's just got to be consistent with it.
And stay away from mobile phones. Yeah.
Stay away from Nick Young. Yeah, I see Nick Young. Yeah, Jesus.
They're still following him around, yeah?
Of course.
Hey, man, seriously.
Once a Laker, always a Laker. Yeah, you speak about him, and that is the comparison I was going to draw before you brought it up, Patrice, that he was a very immature player for the Lakers. Like, there were stories of him meowing across the entire locker room. Like, he just walked into the room. This is a room with Kobe Bryant sitting there, iced to the nines, and he just meowed his way across the entire locker room and sat down. And it's a different type of immaturity with Anthony Edwards. But I think, we're seeing sort of like the flip side of having players coming in as one and dones, and not really being prepared for a men's game, being a professional and conducting themselves as adults, because they're just not quite there yet.
I think Ricky Rubio can have an impact on these players. He's obviously pissed that he was traded from the Suns, but Ricky Rubio is almost like the opposite of what we're talking about, the maturity in a very young player. He had his professional debut in Spain at age 14. So by the time he got to the league, he was 18, and he had played in a World Cup already, and now he's a veteran. He has become a veteran, and he's like I said, the complete opposite. So this might be a guy that can have very good impact in these young players and potentially make them play better. So they have good personalities in there, and if something manages to to put them together as a team, they can be. They're still not going to make the playoffs, in my opinion, but good future ahead. And like you said, Patrice, is just upside, isn't it? A good upside for all of them.
Yeah, agree.
All right. Can we flip the upside into downside? Good past, potentially murky future out west with the Golden State Warriors. I have this team. They didn't really have any notable ins and outs. In the out column, I just put Klay Thompson. That's the big one.
What a shame.
Still on the roster, obviously. But on the ends, there's just Kelly Oubre, who they signed with their trade exception, and Kent Bazemore as well, who they signed for, I think, a minimum contract. But yeah, Klay Thompson going down meant that we would have another season where they're heavily reliant on Draymond and Steph Curry to be the adults in the room. And not a year ago, but around this time in terms of the NBA season, when preseason started, I was like, whoa, when I saw the Lakers play against the Warriors, and I realized they're really bad. They're a little bit better now. With Kelly Oubre and Wiggins, they at least have some players that have some years in the league to fit with Curry and Draymond. But they're still very thin. I enjoyed Eric Pascal's minutes last season, but that backcourt is super, super thin. They've really got no adults to play back there, and at the guard position anyway. And I don't know. I just have this feeling that they might make a go of it early, and if things aren't going right, that we're going to see more of the resting and the little niggling injuries to Curry and Draymond, which means that they miss games and they potentially punt on another season. Either that, or they go the other way and they bust their ass to make the playoffs, and they end up in maybe the 7 to 10 range. Maybe they could eke out a 6 seed. I don't know. It's going to be tough for them in a very stacked Western Conference. But I don't know. The whole situation has me questioning everything, everything I knew and know about the Warriors and that dynasty that they had, which is definitely now over. I don't know where they're going, man. I have them in the middle in that 7 to 10 range. But that's as much because I don't know if we're going to see an MVP Curry season or if we're going to see, we don't need to really push it again this year.
Yeah.
Curry, what a player, huh?
Amazing.
Obviously, he was injured for the first part of the season last year, and hence they had a terrible season. But yeah, I mean, what a shame as well for Klay Thompson. I really wanted to see him back. 2 years without playing, that has a massive impact in someone's career.
Yeah.
He wasn't the most athletic player anyway. He was more of a catch and shoot kind of guy. So he, his game is not going to be massively affected, but his mind will. How sane can you stay for 2 years without playing? Just being on the, next to the bench, wearing a suit. I agree with you. Actually, that they might fight for a I was going to say championship. It can be like I'm in 2016. They might fight for a place in the playoffs, but if by mid-season things are not going too well, they might just be like, yeah, it's okay. We just wait another year. I agree.
Yeah, I had this conversation with a couple of friends, and I think it's just, the NBA is just a couple of players. All you need is a couple of players to go down, and your season's over. And literally, I think that Golden State was so kind of top heavy on, Thompson and Curry that literally once they kind of went down. But then I think it's, they lost Iguodala, they lost Sean Livingston, lost KD, so it wasn't just kind of just Thompson and Curry. I think it was that they lost their kind of whole starting five and some of their bench guys. So obviously the dynasty is over, and it's a shame the way it's happened. And it was pitiful to watch them, obviously last season as well. And it made me question Draymond Green as a player. I thought he would, you watch him in the finals, he may average a triple-double, but without Curry or Thompson, he is just like a nobody, just like, oh my God, who is this guy? How did he make it to the league? That kind of player, Oubre, I like, as I mentioned before, so he may bring a bit of toughness, a bit of edge. Wiggins has got to come out of his shell if he's got a shell, all the athleticism, but
he's an oyster.
Yeah, he's gonna remain in quicksand and stuff like that. His career going down. So yeah, it's just disappointing. I think the Warriors, more than anything else, is disappointing because they were everyone's favorite. Curry was everyone's favorite a few years ago, transformed the league, but now it's like everyone's replicating their game and they're the worst at it. So it's just like, man, Warriors, who are they? Damn.
Yeah, I think you're a bit too harsh on Draymond Green because you have to remember how good he was defensively and the way he used to cover multiple spots at times. Offensively, I agree. He looks like he's got a backpack on his on his shoulders when he's shooting. And it's cool, but a heavy backpack as well. So
I mean, just from a fire and from a leader perspective, there was no voice. There's no voice from Draymond Green last year. There was no edge. He called out Kevin Durant, for whatever, So he's not afraid of anybody, but he seemed afraid this season, So
I sort of put him in the same category in terms of big mouth with Pat Beverly in terms of like he's really freaking annoying. but
Yeah.
I'd rather have him on my team than against me.
Those
So yeah, like the other point I think is I want to see Curry back on the court. That'll be great. And if they're going to give up on that season because of Clay not being there, if we could get to see Curry scoring 40 a game, I'll take that. That'd be great. And shooting from the logo, that'd be also great. And just YOLO. I think that would be the team team slogan this year. Just,
Oubre can do that for sure.
Mm.
All right. I think that wraps things up. So, if you've listened on a podcast app, thank you very much. Please hit the review button, the rate button. Give us 5 stars, please. That helps us a lot. Leave a review, a comment. Let us know what you think. If you're listening on YouTube, press subscribe and ring that bell, right, Tom?
Ring that bell. Ring it.
Click that bell. Give us a like, please. And word of mouth still counts for something. Tell people about us. Let's spread the word. And guys,
tell your mum about us. Tell your mum. Okay, mums love us. Thank you.
And
mother,
guys,
your sister, and friends.
Especially your mum. Not you, Joe. If I say your mums. Anyway, fuck it.
I didn't sound too good, man.
Guys, if you could just drop your social media on your way out, whichever your preferred is, tell us the platform and the account where they can find you. So I've been your host, David Sago. That is at Sago SAGOE _David on Twitter. Tom?
Mine is at Tom Arnold _GNG on Instagram because that's my favorite platform.
All right. Jose?
Mine is at Jose AGUGB, a tough one. So still, you still find me there. So find me and follow me.
I'm at Blank Screen Basketball.
Everywhere and everywhere. Yes. He's not a businessman. He's a businessman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for listening. And we are out of here.